Good afternoon. I call this meeting to order. Welcome to meeting number 17 of the House of Commons Standing Committee on Citizenship and Immigration. Before I go into the regular general comments and reminders and formally introduce our guests who are before us today, I just want to bring to everyone's attention a letter that has been shared with everyone that is on committee. It was a letter that was brought forward by Deputy Minister Kochar, and I'm going to just read a couple of sentences from it because I think it's important for us to highlight. He had indicated that he's expressing his growing concern about the safety and well-being of public servants who appear before Standing Committee. He's also indicated that recent participants has endured significant harassment, abuse, and threats from the public, ranging from social media attacks to hostile messages sent to their work emails and even in-person confrontations. He's further indicated that one source of harassment, so it's not all, one source of harassment stems from short, decontextualized clips of committee appearances by public servants being posted on social media by members of Parliament or their staff. And then he has also said that without a change in approach, he's concerned that threats and intimidation from the public will persist, increasing the risk to public servants who appear before the committees. I'm reading all of that because I want to implore all committee members from all parties, that's all of us from all sides and our staff, to be very cognizant about how we use the information from this committee, whether it's online or offline. It is vitally important that we understand how we're using it and how it may be interpreted, because we do not want, whether it's witnesses from the department. I see you, Ms. Rempel-Gardner, please let me finish. We do not, whether it's witnesses that are from the Immigration Citizenship Department or any of our witnesses in any way ever to feel that it is a safety risk for them to come before our committee and that coming before a committee would in any way ever result from their safety being in any way threatened. So, do you have a point of order?
I do. Since you've introduced this letter, I had hoped to talk to you offline about it, but you've now introduced it. So I would like to provide the conservative response to the letter. I wish we could have done this in private, but you have introduced it, so I'm going to briefly provide the conservative response. It's in a form of a letter to the minister. I'm writing to you with regard to a letter to your deputy minister that your deputy minister sent to the chair of the Standing Committee on Citizenship and Immigration. I have copied her below. In the letter, your deputy minister makes a troubling accusation and an even more concerning recommendation. First, he made an accusation that gave that negative feedback one of his colleagues received after a committee appearance, which was in no way detailed or substantiated in the letter, was somehow the fault of members of the committee. Second, he implied that public testimony at committee should not be shared. Given the eyebrow-raising nature of this content, I'm affording you the courtesy of assuming that your most senior bureaucrat went rogue and sent the letter to the committee without your knowledge. If that is truly the case, I trust you will enact appropriate disciplinary measures. If you did, in fact, sign off on this letter, allow me to provide you with some feedback that may help you effectively manage the situation. 1. If your officials have experienced criminal behavior, they should report it to the authorities. I condemn any actual harassment or intimidation against any Canadian, and no one should experience criminal harassment or criminal abuse. In fact, I myself have faced criminal harassment for holding your government to account. I am pleased to report I have not allowed it to silence me. Given your government's insistence that Canada's criminal justice system works in favor of the victims, if your officials feel their accusation has risen to the level of criminality, your officials should have no problem reporting this to the police, having them taking it seriously, and seeing the perpetrator brought to swift justice. Godspeed to them. I would also note that it was most recently a Liberal MP who set the bar for harassing behavior in a committee that was the Status of Women Committee, but I digress. Number 2, recognize that your officials carry your water. Based on the limited information your deputy minister provided in this letter, and the fact that he did not mention the incident had been reported to authorities, I have to assume that the incident he described did not reach the threshold for criminality. The limited, unverified accusations he presented suggested this official was presented with a person who was irritated by the content they provided on your behalf during a committee. If this is the case, perhaps the Prime Minister, who recently told a journalist who was questioning him over a failure that you should look inside yourself, perhaps you should do that as well. Your government wants to turn the once strong immigration system into an unmitigated dumpster fire. You and your cabinet colleagues have made policy decisions which have enabled mass abuse of Canada's asylum system, mass overall immigration levels with little thought to impact or taxpayer funds, the healthcare system, housing support or a youth jobs crisis, wage suppression, and the UN describing aspects of the immigration system as akin to slave labor. Said differently, I wouldn't want to have to appear before a parliamentary committee to defend your actions either. In fact, I feel sorry for your DM and your officials. However, if you want the public to support the testimony of officials, then you should make better policy and decisions. The buck stops with you. 3, understand that it's the committee's job to hold you to account for your decisions, and we will not be censored. It's the job of non-government members to hold you to account for your decisions. This includes asking questions of department officials who taxpayers pay to execute said decisions, and the public's right to see these proceedings. This is a fundamental part of our democracy. It is troubling that rather than advising you to make better decisions, you have instead directed your DM to try to censor parliamentarians and infringe upon our rights. Do better. We will not accept any form of censorship, and we will not roll over to make it easier for you and your government to get away with breaking Canada's immigration system. Rebuilding Canada's consensus for immigration rests on our ability to use the committee to hold you to account, propose policy, and get you to do the right thing. We will stay the course. Giddy up. Number 4, your department officials have a history of providing unclear information to this committee and sometimes appear to even be obfuscating parliamentarians. I have reached my limit with regard to your officials giving unclear testimony at committee and failing to provide parliamentarians information we need to scrutinize the government's decisions. I appreciate that your government's tactic of trying to impose censorship measures or withhold information from Canadians is designed to make it easier for you to get away with all of the issues that you've had in the system and how you failed with Canadians. This spans from your government suing the Speaker of the House of Commons to prevent the release of duly voted on document production orders and filibustering numerous committees for the same. Recently, I discovered that your government has been instructing officials to actively find ways to avoid answering my questions and using, quote, limiting language. I found this out in an ATIP. So forgive me if I take your DM's detail-free accusations with a healthy dose of skepticism. With regard to your officials' recent performance at committee, and I can list it, I have numerous occasions where they gave unclear and we had to do follow-up examples. In fact, your deputy minister had to write the committee on November 24th admitting that they did not convey a complete picture of the CBSA's work. Number 5, your government has enabled a culture of managerial incompetence in your department. I direct your attention to the Yates report. I could read multiple quotes out of that, the diffuse organizational structure and a lack of clear accountability in large committee membership. It's just boggling me. Here's the other thing. From 2015 to today, the head count at your department has doubled, yet processing times in some streams have grown to a mind-boggling 10 years. That is insane. In no going concern would any board members allow the FTE count to double while the outcome becomes precipitously worse. This is squarely the fault of your prime ministers who have treated the immigration ministry as the armpit of cabinet, appointing multiple incompetent ministers incapable of righting the ship over the last decade. So, in closing, I will not be silenced. The members of my committee will not be silenced. And you, Minister, need to do better. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rampel-Gardner. Mr. Fragiscatos.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Colleagues, we all know that the presence of a minister and officials at a parliamentary committee is fundamental to the Westminster tradition. I think the letter was written as a call to ensure respectful dialogue. I think it was written in good faith, and I know we can approach the meeting in that vein because that's what we've done at committee from the outset, as I talked about in our previous meeting. And so with that, Madam Chair, I hope we can begin the meeting.
Thank you so much, Mr. Fragiscatos. So I will move to general comments, and then I will introduce our witnesses. So it's always good to go through reminders of general comments, and this is meant for both the witnesses and our members. We have 2 hours with the minister and officials, and as always, I will be very strict with time. There will be opening comments for 5 minutes, and after that, I will, of course, let you know when you have 1 minute left. Kindly wait until I recognize you by name before speaking. I will remind everyone to kindly not speak over each other, as it will be hard for our translators to translate, and it makes their job difficult. Of course, please ensure that all comments are addressed through the chair. And members, please raise your hand if you wish to speak. The clerk and I will manage the speaking order as best as we can. Thanks in advance to everyone for their cooperation, for all of your cooperation. So pursuant to Standing Order 81.5 and the motion adopted by the committee on November 18, 2025, the committee is commencing its study on the supplementary estimates B 2025-2026, votes 1B and 10B under Department of Citizenship and Immigration, and pursuant to Standing Order 1082 and the motion adopted by the committee on November 18, 2025, the committee is commencing its briefing on the Immigration Levels Plan 2026 to 2028. I would now like to welcome our witnesses for today's meeting. We have with us today the Honorable Lena Metlej-Diab, Minister of Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship, and from the Department of Citizenship and Immigration, we have Dr. Harpreet Kochhar, Deputy Minister. We have Emmanuel Dalt Bonin, Acting Senior Assistant Deputy Minister, Strategic Policy. We have Suyang Park, Assistant Deputy Minister, Economic Programs. We have Jean-Marc Gionnet, Acting Assistant Deputy Minister, Protection and Family Programs Sector, and we have Nathalie Manceau, Chief Financial Officer. So a warm welcome to all of you. I will keep a few minutes at the end of the second hour to report the supplementary estimates B to the House, if the committee decides to. And I think with that, I'm going to say welcome, Minister Diab. I now invite you to make an opening statement of up to 5 minutes, after which we will proceed with rounds of questions.
Thank you, Chair. I'm here today on the Immigration Levels Plan and the Supplementary Estimates B. Our Immigration Levels Plan is a plan that restores control, brings immigration back to sustainable levels, and aligns with Canada's capacity to grow. Canadians have been clear that welcoming newcomers and celebrating diversity are part of who we are, but they also need an immigration system that strengthens our economy, respects local capacity, and protects those we welcome and integrate. Ces dernières années, la croissance rapide de la population.
In recent years, rapid population growth, especially in temporary residence, has put pressure on housing, services, and the systems communities rely on. Our plan brings immigration back to sustainable, predictable levels. It focuses on the areas where newcomers make the greatest difference, i.e., essential jobs, key sectors, and strong, resilient communities.
Over the next 3 years, permanent resident admissions will stabilize at 380,000 per year. This keeps us on track to maintain permanent resident admissions below 1% of Canada's population beyond 2027. Nearly 2 in 3 newcomers will come through economic programs that target essential jobs and respond to real labor market needs in communities across the country. Temporary resident arrivals will be reduced to 385,000 in 2026, including 230,000 temporary workers and 155,000 international students. These arrivals will further be reduced in the following 2 years. This supports our commitment to bring Canada's temporary population below 5% of the population by the end of 2027, and allows for sustainable growth for everyone who lives in and comes to Canada. De plus, nous maintiendrons les engagements.
Moreover, we will maintain Canada's humanitarian commitments, welcoming close to 50,000 refugees and protected persons next year. We also are reaffirming our commitment to Francophone immigration outside Quebec. In 2026, 9% of permanent residents will be French-speaking, keeping us up on track to reach 12% by 2029. We're introducing a one-time initiative to transition approximately 115,000 protected persons who already are living here and recognised as needing Canada's protection, accelerating their full integration into Canadian society and giving them a clear path to citizenship. To retain essential workers, we'll also prioritise the transition to permanent residence of 33,000 temporary workers who are already living and working here. Doctors, nurses, builders, and others that communities rely on every day.
Talent attraction strategy will help employers recruit high-skilled workers faster in key sectors like healthcare, construction, clean technology, and AI, strengthening Canada's competitiveness and keeping us a top destination for global talent. With permanent resident admissions below 1% and temporary population decreasing to under 5% of our population by the end of 2027,
1 minute.
we're bringing immigration back in line with Canada's capacity. These measures strengthen our economy, protect our capacity to welcome, and rebuild trust in the system. That's a plan that will work better for newcomers and better for Canadians. Thank you, merci, and we're here till 5:30. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Madam Minister Diab. Now we're going to begin with our first round of questions, which is for 6 minutes, and the first person we have is Mr. Redkop. Mr. Redkop.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to all of you for being here. Thank you, Minister. I want to start with a troubling incident that happened at the Montreal Passport Office where passport officials told an Israeli woman that they could not put Israel on her passport. Minister, did you instruct Service Canada officials to not allow Israel as a country of birth on passports?
So thanks for that question. Familiar with that. We've received messages on that. IRCC department has responded to some media outlet. Definitely not. Israel is a country, and anybody who is born in Israel can put that in their passport.
So, can you supply the Passport Canada policy documents that this official would have referenced to make their decision?
So the policies would be handled by Service Canada, but certainly I don't personally have them, and I wouldn't have them myself, but I am aware because there's been a number of questions raised, and the Department of IRCC's worked with ESDC on that issue.
So as the minister responsible for passports, do you condemn the rogue behavior of that agent then?
Listen, Israel is a country, and
So do you condemn
there
the
has
behavior
been no
of that agent?
changes in those policies.
So do you condemn the behavior of the agent?
I don't understand the word condemn. I'm not sure what that means. Obviously, that was not, that's not correct.
Let me put it another way. So your deputy minister is right beside you. Would you instruct him to reprimand or fire these employees for denying the existence of Israel as a country?
They're not our employees.
Should you be speaking
member.
to your counterpart and asking for them to deal with that employee?
Well, the minister responsible for the file would be obviously speaking with department and staff on that.
So you've
It's
spoken
not-
to
it's
that
not-
minister about this issue?
When it first came to understand what the relationship is between IRCC and ESDC.
Is, in your opinion, is Israel is Jerusalem to be considered to be part of Israel?
Is Jerusalem considered? Listen, people have the right to put where they're born.
So if you put
Regardless of where
Jerusalem, is
they're
that
born.
Israel?
Pardon?
If you put Jerusalem, is that Israel?
Well, we put the country of birth. I know.
Okay, let's move to the, you mentioned in your opening statement about the one-time initiatives to recalibrate our immigration system. So there's 115,000 protected persons and 33,000 temporary workers. So I'm a little confused. What category are they going to show up on the levels plan when they're being reported? Are those humanitarian and compassionate people?
Okay, yeah, so let me start with, if you'll allow me, if not, someone else will, but the protected person in Canada category, if I can explain to you the definition of that.
Well, I don't need that.
Okay, so your question, no, did not
So I'm
give me
wondering about
the idea that that
Okay.
maybe perhaps, you go ahead and ask that again.
Okay, so you put in the plan, well, you didn't put in the plan, you put in a little asterisk at the bottom of the plan by the way, we're going to add another 115,000 people to this plan. So the plan is actually going to be higher than you said. I'm just curious where those people are going to show up in the plan once they actually are granted PR.
So the addition of that number is in addition to the plan.
I
That is
understand.
correct.
And so what line on the plan are they going to show up as?
Well, they're in the budget. It was presented in Parliament. It's there, transparent.
So the number-
Everybody is seeing it. They are in addition to the plan, to the
So, but I'm confused. You're saying they're in the budget, but they're in addition to the budget. So which is it? Are they in the budget or in addition to the budget?
not the budget. They are in addition to the level plan
Okay.
for, it's a one-time initiative over the next 2 years.
So when you said the levels were going to be 380,000 or whatever, they're actually going to be higher than that, is what you're saying?
Again, it's very transparent. The document is there.
Well,
Those are the numbers.
I
For
would
the next
disagree
2
that
years,
it's,
these are one-time initiatives.
but
These
Minister,
are people who have
I
been
would
living.
disagree that it's transparent because you're saying on the one hand, it's this number, 380,000, and on the other hand, you're saying, by the way, we're going to add in another X number of people. We don't know how many it's going to be. I don't find that transparent at all.
So again, these protected persons in Canada have been living here for years. They are working, they're paying taxes.
I understand there's
They
3
have
million people like
housing,
that.
and this is the plan to bring them faster into permanent residency in a 2-year time
So
span.
is that why you put the unprecedented powers in C-12 to mass approve documents is for this category of people?
Those would have absolutely nothing to do with these people. These people already have the right to stay in Canada.
How do they have the right to stay in Canada? Were you going to process them one at a time, or like how are you going to process so many people at once? We've been struggling. Your government's been struggling to process files for years, and all of a sudden you're magically going to approve 115,000 files. How's that going to happen?
1 minute.
It will come from the resources that are there. The department already has actively been looking at that. It will not take away from any officers that are processing other items. The
Your
department has already been looking at that and has that under
So
control.
you've somehow figured out how to suddenly become more efficient in the department? Is that what you're saying?
We're always looking at
Of
efficiencies.
course, of course. Just a quick question on the ZD program. In 2023, you just established a program for these folks, survivors from Iraq. They're in the queue along with hundreds of thousands of other people. And I'm told that folks who applied 2 years ago are just now starting to be contacted. So how many Yazidis have arrived in Canada under this program?
I can get you that from the official who's here.
You know, actually, what you could do, just to simplify this, is if you could just provide a report to the committee on the program, you know, how many applied, how many have been
Well,
accepted.
no, I think he can give you that information right now.
I think my time is up.
The time is up, so perhaps you
Okay,
can
next.
respond in the next one.
Please provide a report. Could you do that?
th-
Could I just
th-
get
Question.
confirmation?
We'll give it to you in the next question.
Thank you, Mr. Redekop, and thank you, Minister Diab. Next, we go for 6 minutes to Ms. Sodi.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Oh, and Minister, if you could just talk close to the microphone, that would be great.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Minister, and the officials for being here today. Minister, I wanted to give you some time to talk about the Protected Persons in Canada plan. You wanted to explain it in Mr. Redekop's time, but I'd like to give you that time to explain it and further elaborate on it now.
Definitely. Let me just start off with the definition, I guess, of protected persons in Canada category. And you know what? I'm going to read it so that I don't make any mistakes on it, because I think it is extremely important. It is not a category that most would understand, even if they are in the immigration world. So protected persons have a recognized protected status in Canada and can reside in the country of Canada. The government will undertake a one-time initiative to streamline the transition of approximately 115,000 protected persons in Canada who are already on a pathway of permanent residency over the next 2 years. So prior to that, what we would do is take X amount per year, what's been decided, and again, it is transparent, it is clear, we are putting it there. I think it's the fair thing to do is to provide these people with a permanent residency over the next 2 years. Of course, applications, the practical step will deliver on Canada's international humanitarian obligation, but would also provide us with greater stability to this vulnerable population. The approach is being taken in recognition of the fact that the vast majority of these people cannot return to their country of origin and are in genuine need of Canada's protection. They have their permanent status already recognized, so this will simply accelerate their full integration into Canadian society and path to citizenship. Again, as I said and I explained, that admission is in addition to the above PR admission targets. There's nothing to hide there. These are individuals that have come over the years to Canada, have gone through the legal system, the legal channel, and have been given status by the courts, by the refugee system, however it is that they have the right to stay. They are here to stay. They are working. They are contributing to society. They are paying taxes. They are living. So they're not taking away, housing. They're already housed. And that is what that category entails.
Perfect. Thank you for further elaborating on that. I'd like to ask you a little bit about the levels plan, and either you or Deputy Minister may answer the question. But the department has spoken quite a bit about restoring stability within the system. Can you tell us a little bit more about what this looks like, what indicators we will see will come with that stability, and what Canadians can expect in their day-to-day lives as a result of the new levels plan?
Thank you. Really good question when we talk about these. These are important questions, I believe, that people are really talking about now. The immigration levels plan that we have put forth will take a balanced approach that will meet labor market needs and support Canada's own workforce while making sure the targets reflect available capacity in areas like housing and healthcare. So I worked personally, the department did at different levels with the provinces and territory over the last 6 months to see their absorptive capacity. We've taken a balanced approach. Immigration remains an important tool to complement the Canadian labor force and address ongoing labor shortages in sectors such as healthcare, skilled trades, agri-food, and other types that cannot be filled by Canadian workers at this time. And so Canada remains to be a top destination for people. We want to ensure that we bring the best talent to complement that with the talent that we already have in the Canadian population.
Yeah, no, that's great. Thank you. Can you tell us how you approached consulting stakeholders and Canadians in the process of preparing for the 2026 to 2028 levels plan, and how some of these, what was discussed in some of these conversations, and how did these conversations help you shape this plan?
1 minute.
So with there was extensive consultations. Actually, there's data that the department kept as well. I can certainly read them into the records. I know I did my own consultation as minister. I know the deputy would have done his own consultation. I know different directors would have also done. I know the parliamentary secretary did quite a bit. But a total of, over and beyond all of that, a total of 840 stakeholders and partner organizations completed a survey, as well as 18,135 individual respondents. The department also, as I said, held thematic conversations with a number of stakeholders, including urban planners, municipalities, economists, small and medium-sized businesses, Francophone organizations, expert on attracting strategically global talent. The department also invited 530 individuals from First Nations, Métis, and Inuit.
Thank you, Minister.
Serving people.
Thank you, Minister. That's time. Thank you, Ms. Zodi. And now we move to Monsieur Brunel-Duceppe pour 6 minutes.
Merci beaucoup, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you very much,
Bienvenue,
Madam Chair. Welcome, Minister, and pleased to have you for 2 hours. Minister, if the Prime Minister of Canada asked you to fast-track the processing of citizenship applications with the only objective of interfering in the electoral process, would you agree to that?
Merci pour ce question.
Well, thank you for the question. No, it's not complicated. Not at all. I absolutely would not do what you said. But if I could just clarify, under the Quebec-Canada Accord, Quebec sets its own immigration thresholds annually. Quebec also selects its own permanent residents and immigrants. So when it comes time for this kind of thing to occur, question, the Quebec-Canada Accord, Minister, that goes back to what year exactly? about 30 years, says the Minister. So about 1991, we agree, says Mr. Bruno Giuseppe. And yet in 1995, Mr. Markey, the former Minister of Immigration, fast-tracked citizenship applications. So when you say it's not possible because there's an accord between Quebec and Canada, and yet it occurred in 1995, and yet the accord was put in place, so I think you're mistaken, but you've stated that you wouldn't do that. But given that there's a precedent for it, that someone's done it in the past, wouldn't that violate the Election Act? Wouldn't that be egregious, inaccessible, were someone to accept the Prime Minister's marching orders to fast-track citizenship applications in order to interfere in an electoral process? Wouldn't that be something shocking, in your opinion? Because you just said that you wouldn't do that yourself. Sir, I am concentrating and focusing on what's happening right now, and it's my undertaking to ensure that our immigration system is sustainable in order to attract the best talent, that it's based on integrity. I can't comment on the past. I don't know the details of what occurred or what transpired. I can't sit in judgment of others. I can't stand up and advocate for anyone either, and I'm not going to be judge and jury. I am here to do my job right now. Well, that's exactly why I was asking you the question. If it has occurred in the past, well, necessarily it can occur in the future. And we absolutely do not want this to be repeated. A former Liberal minister said that a former Liberal PM violated the Election Act and on top of that used the federal government's resources of the federal government mechanism in order to interfere with the electoral process. I understand that you're condemning this and that you would never do the same thing. Yes or no? Yay or nay? Response. As I said, we are working to bolster a immigration system based on integrity in order to attract talent. It's a very straightforward question. You wouldn't do it, would you, Minister? Absolutely, I would not. So were someone to do it, would it be your opinion that they would have to justify their actions before a committee? You said you wouldn't do it because you find it unacceptable. So, as I said earlier, it's not up to me to be judge and jury and prosecutor here. That's not my role. But are you saying that you don't have an opinion? Even if that individual admitted that they acted in that manner, you have nothing to say about it? Response. This isn't a court of justice, but you have the opportunity to voice your opinion. I don't know the details you're talking about, says the Minister. Oh, that's very reassuring, says Mr. Bruno Giuseppe. You said that the Election Act, well, you're part of the executive, you're part of the cabinet, and you're saying that the Election Act isn't important to you. Is that what you're saying? Response. I'm telling you that we're going to continue to work to have the best possible system here in Canada. But if your minister interfered in the electoral process, that wouldn't be upsetting to you because you're saying that the Election Act isn't a matter of concern for you. Response. As minister, I'm focusing on the here and now and the integrity of our system. But that's exactly what I'm asking of you, says Mr. Bruno Giuseppe. Well, who gives a brass razoo about the Election Act? You're not interested in that. Now, in a statement transmitted to Radio-Canada last week, your cabinet argued that Ottawa had already earmarked enough money, $5 billion, for Quebec. And yet that falls under the Quebec-Canada Accord. And there's other files, such as francisization, but there's nothing for asylum seekers or refugee claimants. And apparently there's $730 million that the minister announced. The question is simple. Are you going to reimburse Quebec?
Alors, si
If you wish, we can provide you with all of the figures. Broken down, says Mr. Brunel-Duceppe, by sector. Oh, yes, and on an annual basis as well. So that $1.5 billion, can you break that down for us by sector, says Mr. Brunel-Duceppe. You just didn't hand out $1.5 billion. There were various envelopes that totaled $1.5 billion. Thank you, Mr. Brunel-Duceppe. Thank you, Minister Diab.
Continue this on the next round. We've now moved to the second round, and we begin for 5 minutes with Ms. Rempel-Garner.
Thank you. Minister, in late September, the Toronto Star reported that there was over 1 million temporary residents that had expiring visas, and yesterday Statistics Canada said that they had not counted 38% of non-citizens. No wonder that Canadians can't find a family doctor. Will you support an amendment to ensure that your department cannot use the Part 7 powers of C-12 to mass extend temporary resident visas?
Thank you, member, for that question. I know you brought that forward on the committee, and look, I know you worked hard on these, and we appreciate. Well,
This is a new one. So
this is a new one.
Yes,
ask
it's
again.
on notice.
Then. So this is a different one than
yes,
you brought on the committee.
So will you support an amendment to ensure that your department cannot use the Part 7 powers to mass extend temporary resident visas?
Mass extend. So did you not bring that to committee?
I used procedure in the House, which I can do.
Okay. So when we go back to the House,
No,
members
you're
will vote
here.
on that.
You're here. Is your department going to use the Part 7 powers to mass extend temporary resident visas?
That is not the purpose for that.
It's a yes or a no.
What I'm saying is that is not the purpose for those amendments.
No, I'm asking you.
The one example I will give you is during COVID, my understanding is the workers that were here at the time, and this is facts, were not allowed to leave the country, who were working here temporarily. So I believe that was an occasion where they could have, or may
So they did.
extended
You do
them
want
to
to
stay
mass.
during COVID.
So you do want to mass extend temporary resident visas?
That's not what I said.
That's exactly what you just said.
That's not the purpose for C-12.
So I am taking it that the purpose of those powers, based on what you just said, is to mass extend the millions of temporary resident visas that are in the country.
I believe I testified when I was here before on the immigration provisions in C2, which are identical to C12.
You didn't testify on this.
No, but the same thing would follow on the whether you extend or the opposite of extending, annulling.
You were
These are
confused
in
in the House.
exceptional circumstances. These are not something that we
Yes. So there's
look
three,
to do.
There's 3 million people in the country on temporary resident visas. That is an exceptional circumstance. It's never happened before in Canadian history. It happened under your government. In the spring, you told me your government has no plans to remove them. You just said that if you had these powers during COVID, you would have extended temporary resident visas. So I don't want you to use your powers to extend temporary resident visas. That's bad. So can you tell the committee whether or not you intend to use those powers to extend the visas or not?
Let me clarify. No one minister will have that power individually, whether you're extending or doing the opposite of the extending.
So here's the thing.
These will go to cabinet. These will go to an OIC.
Yes.
These will be transparent. These are not something that will be done.
So just to be clear, our emergency rooms are overflowing. We have a youth jobs crisis. The provinces, including Quebec, are telling you that they need more money because of the temporary residents. And you are now telling the committee that it is highly possible that you are going to use the powers in Part 7
Point of order,
to
Chair.
do that. No, this is my line of...
No, point of order, Ms. Rempel-Garner. Point of order, Mr.
For the
Fredericks.
purposes of the record, I did not hear the minister say those words. Let's just be clear
Can I
about what was
respond on that
said
point of order?
and what was not said.
We are restarting your time, Ms.
No,
Rempel-Garner.
on that point of order.
You have another point of order?
Yes, I do. I appreciate that my colleague may likely be the
No.
minister in a couple
Not a-
of
not a point of order.
months.
Not a point of
But for
order.
now,
Not a
I
point
get
of order.
to I get to ask the current minister.
Not a
Maybe
point
he-
of order.
Thank you.
So please continue with your time.
Maybe I will be likely having this conversation with him in a couple of months. So, Minister, I understand the Liberals want to silence me and rescue you. They shouldn't let him rescue you. He's going to have your job. Will you support an amendment to ensure that your government can't mass extend 3 million people because you have no plan to remove them? Yes or no? And this is really bad. Can you just
Listen,
be clear?
member, when you ask a question, I think you should be able to have decency to let someone respond. If you don't like any responses, then please continue
I don't
to
like
do
your
what
word
you'd like.
salad. It's true.
So-
You are a very bad minister.
Oh, you
So
know what?
will you
I
support
prefer
my-
fattoush and tabbouleh to your salad at any time.
That is the oddest thing any immigration minister
Well,
has
and
said at this committee. It's very
No, but
weak
it's
and
my culture. I
will
can't-
likely
it
be
is what
added
it
to your
is.
performance review. So will you
Thank you so
support
much.
a Part 7 amendment to ensure that your government cannot use the mass extension powers or the powers in Part 7 to mass extend millions of temporary resident visas?
So, member, you're
Your
free
answer
to make
literally-
any amendments you like within
Will
the
you support it?
procedure that is there. I will take a look, just like any reasonable minister, reasonable whatever.
Do you
in
think
terms
millions
of
of
what you put
residents
forth.
should
Thank
be
you, Minister.
extended?
Thank you, Ms. Rempel-Gardner. That is time. And now we move to Ms. Salma Zaid for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks to the Minister and all the officials who are here before the committee today. Minister, my first question to you is, I met with the representatives from the Palestinian students and scholars at risk. They highlighted the situation of more than 130 Palestinian graduate students who have secured admissions and full scholarships in high-priority fields like AI, public health, and other research-based programs. Yet, they are facing prolonged delays in obtaining study permits and, in many cases, even accessing the biometrics. These students have endured unimaginable conditions in Gaza. Will your department work with these students to help get them here to begin their studies?
All right. Thank you very much for your question. I'm going to use some of my notes just to make sure that, for the record, that what I say is clear and it is factual, which is how I always work, as opposed to making things up along the way. Let me just first start off with that Canada remains deeply concerned with the situation in the Middle East and empathizes with those affected. IRCC has put measures to provide temporary haven for those that were directly affected by the conflict, who were Canadian citizens first and permanent resident members and have family members in Canada. In addition to applications processed through the temporary measures, Palestinians who left Gaza on or after October 7, 2023 have also been able to apply under IRCC's existing programs. So if I can just tell you some key facts, and then I'll answer your student question. On January 9, 2024, IRCC introduced measures to provide temporary safe haven for Palestinians directly affected by the crisis in Gaza who have Canadian citizen or permanent resident family members in Canada willing to support them. The intake closed, as we know, in March 2025, and when the intake cap of 5,000 applications was reached. So processing of these applications is ongoing. Movement out of Gaza, though, has been challenging due to the factors outside of Canada's control. Canada does not ultimately decide who can exit Canada, nor does IRCC for that matter. So when special measures were announced, Canada established a process to advocate for movement through the crossing into Egypt, where biometrics would be collected and applications finalized. The closure of Rafah in May 2024 significantly reduced available options for people to exit Gaza. Government of Canada is aware of reporting that the Rafah border crossing may reopen, and so we continue to monitor that situation, and we will adapt that approach as required. So Canada is closely following the developments related to the peace deal as well, and we will continue to monitor that. Now, in relation to the students that you may be referring to, we understand that some students, including those with acceptance letters from Canadian institutions, have been experiencing increased processing times for their study permit applications. Applying to a Canadian school does not guarantee entry to Canada, and all prospective international students must meet all requirements before a study permit is approved.
1 minute.
Minister, this program which you mentioned about the Palestinian extended family members, when it was announced in late 2023, it was with great optimism people took that. But unfortunately, it has not been the success we hoped for. Few have been able to make it out of Gaza, and I have many cases of people that have made it to Egypt but cannot get permission to proceed to Canada. So could you share what your department is doing to address these issues?
20 seconds.
Thank you. So I agree with you. We continue to work as hard as we can with Global Affairs, with other partners, not just Canadians, but different countries as well, with Israel, with Jordan, with Egypt. This is not just a Canada question. If it was, the number would have been here by now. So we will continue to do everything that we can to ensure those that have been accepted.
Thank you, Minister Diab. Thank you, Ms. Zaid. And now we will proceed pour 2 minutes et demie avec Monsieur Brunet-Duceppe.
Merci, Madame la
2.5
Présidente.
minutes. Thank you, Madam Chair. Minister, do you acknowledge that Quebec, Montreal in particular, has a disproportionate intake of refugee claimants vis-a-vis Quebec's demographic weight in Canada? Response: well, in that case, yes, in that case, well, the previous minister made a big song and dance about this in June 2024, saying that he struck a committee to divvy up refugee claimants with ministers of immigration from the provinces and territories sitting beside him. What's happened to that committee?
We can't.
Response: when I was appointed minister, I was briefed on that specific matter, and in September, I held a meeting with all the provinces and territories, the ministers, my counterparts, and we talked about that particular topic. And I can tell you that, for example, New Brunswick did bring in a lot of refugees. And the immigration minister of New Brunswick, minister, if I may, but that immigration minister, says the minister, reported that it was a good thing that the Liberal government did because those folks were well integrated in New Brunswick. But Minister, you just told me just an instant ago that Quebec and Montreal bring in a disproportionate number of refugee claimants in Canada, and I was asking you what happened to the committee, and you started to talk about New Brunswick. Now, the last time the meeting met, that committee met, there were no changes made. Again, it's Quebec and Ontario that bear the brunt. And at the press conference, well, the press conference took place in June in 2024, and here we are in December 2025. And still nothing has been done in terms of properly and equitably divvying up these refugee claimants. That would solve a whole lot of issues. How is it that you're inert on this particular issue in terms of ensuring that there's a fair breakup of these claims?
Quickly, please.
Could you please respond, sir? Well, unfortunately, I won't be able to respond in the space of 15 seconds, but we can come back to you with further information to respond to the question. Thank you, Mr. Brunet-Duceppe.
Next, we have Michelle Rempel-Gardner for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. In December of 2023, a non-citizen went to a hotel here in Canada to meet a 15-year-old for sex, in which he had agreed to pay for these services. He only received 3 months of house arrest and was allowed to go shopping for 3 hours every Sunday throughout these 3 months. His sentencing was lessened so as not to affect his immigration status. Do you think the criminal inadmissibility component, so Section 36(1) of the Immigration Refugee Protection Act, do you think that that kept Canadians safe here in this situation?
Thank you, member, for that question. I know you know that sentencing decisions are made independently by the courts, where the federal government, though, is responsible for the law is for removals. But under the immigration law, a non-citizen convicted of a serious violent is subject to deportation.
Right, but I'll just stop you there for a sec. So you're actually, since you've had trouble understanding questions today, you, as the immigration minister, surprise, you're actually responsible for the Immigration Refugee Protection Act. And that section is under your portfolio. So this guy was convicted of a serious crime. They used a loophole in Section 36(1) to ensure that his sentence was reduced so that he could stay in Canada. Is that good or bad?
So there is no federal law that requires judges to reduce a sentence because of immigration consequences. That is the truth.
Right, so I'm asking you about Section 36. I'm just going to remind you, this is part of your portfolio. So this is your department. Do you think that that section is working? Do you think that, I'll give you another example. There was a 25-year-old who was on a study permit. He sexually assaulted an 18-year-old at a club in my city in Calgary. He was found guilty, and the judge reduced his sentence because of that provision in that bill you're responsible for. The definition of serious criminality, it doesn't work. I just want to feel like, do you think that's bad? Like, do you think that maybe we should change that so that people who are non-citizens who are convicted of things like sexual assault get auto-deported rather than just kind of sticking around and doing it again, maybe?
So we have legislation in front of us that will ensure serious crimes get dealt with seriously,
Which
including
legislation?
deportations. The immigration, so even
law?
the judge in the case said
No, go back. Tell me
that
which law
we
you're
were
talking
not
about.
to override the seriousness of the offense. Might be a factor to
So you
consider,
don't know which
but
law
it
you
will-
just said?
Absolutely, no, it would not override the offense.
I really think you have no idea what you're talking about. It's really sad. We're talking about non-citizens who are convicted of serious crime being allowed to stay in Canada. So we put forward an amendment to Bill C-12, which would have corrected this. I did your job for you. I think Peter might be doing your job for you in a couple of months. But you guys didn't support that. So I'm asking you as
of order,
like
Chair.
just somebody.
Yes, point of order, Mr. Fragiscatos.
Let's just maintain the focus on the subject at hand, which is immigration, please.
I would love to maintain the focus, but the minister, like,
We're back on your time,
the
Ms.
minister just
Rempel-Garner.
doesn't, she can't even answer a basic question. So I'm asking you, you have people, non-citizens who have been convicted of sexual assault, and judges are using a serious criminality loophole that's in your bill, in your department. Do you think that should maybe be changed?
People who are committing serious offenses will be deported. I'll tell you.
No, this guy wasn't. He's still here.
Well, we're talking now. I can't
minute.
talk. I don't know what year you're referring to. I
All
don't
of these
really know
cases,
the,
they're still here.
And again, I think what you're trying to do is, this is
Stand
an
up for
approach
victims?
that it's a recycled approach that we heard years ago that interferes with judicial independence and
you're
ignores the Supreme
pro-raper.
Court precedent. But again, I say to you, the courts have already indicated that serious offenses will be
You're
dealt with
pro-sexual
seriously.
assault guy staying in
and-
Canada. That's what we're hearing. Like, can't you even just say that this is wrong and you'll look into it? Like, did nobody even say, like, maybe you could just say, Minister, this is really serious. You should say it's serious. I'm going to look into it. Maybe we could work together on it. You just defended a guy who, like, sexually assaulted
don't know
somebody
the
and should be
cases. I don't know the
deported. And you're the
facts.
immigration minister.
I don't know the facts you're
I just
referring
told
to.
you. I've raised it in the House, and you guys have done nothing. And it's continuing every day. It's rampant in our justice system. You have the responsibility to do this, and you've done nothing. Why?
Thank you, Ms. Rempel-Garner. Thank you, Minister Diab. Next, we go for 5 minutes to Ms. Sodi.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Minister, as we know, talent attraction is a huge part of our new immigration strategy. In Budget 2025, we introduced significant investments in attracting talent from around the world, specifically to our universities and research institutions. Can you tell us what role the Immigration Department is playing in these initiatives, and has IRCC prepared for any new policies or initiatives to support the facilitation of this talent attraction strategy?
So in response to the mandate commitment to attract the best talent in the world while keeping our immigration rates at a sustainable level, IRCC is working with other government departments on actions to ensure that Canada continues to attract highly skilled international talent. Specifically, some of the departments would include defense, it would include ISAD, it would include the Department of Jobs and Families, etc. So the strategy comprises a series of initiatives to prioritize, target, attract, and retain top international talent in Canada, people with skills, education, experience that Canada's labor market needs, and that will always complement the labor force that we have here in Canada. Because the other thing we're doing is we are taking people that have doctoral degrees, students to make Canada's research ecosystem and innovation agenda, including advancements in critical sectors like healthcare, because we recognize the importance of that. So we have committed to processing study permits with applications from outside Canada at this doctoral level within 14 days, and in fact that has already occurred. There's quite a few that have already come to Canada in that 14-day period. We are extending it that if they have a family member, and if the family member attends with them as well, that they would also be able to bring their family, whether it's children and or a spouse. So again, master's and doctoral degree students who are enrolled at our public designated learning institutions as well will also be exempt starting in 2026 from having the certificates. And so that this approach will select the efforts to recruit the high potential graduate degree program candidates.
Thank you for your answer. I'm also curious to know about the economic impact of the new levels plan. Can you tell us how you and the Immigration Department considered the economic impact when crafting the levels plan, and what impact do you predict Canadians will see with this plan?
So again, this levels plan concentrates heavily on attracting individuals under the economic category, whether it's the federal economic pathways under express entry, whether it's the provincial nominee programs that the provinces and territories will choose to fit their own, their own labor needs. So the permanent residents that are admitted through those regional economic immigration pathways, again, like I said, whether it's the provincial nominee program, the Atlantic immigration program, we also have a rural program, we have a francophone community immigration program that will be selected by these provinces in order to meet their labor economic needs. I can give you examples in 2024, I'm not sure, but in 2024, non-permanent residents and PR residents, as an approximation, 23% of people were working in construction, 40% were working in professional scientific and technical services, 44% were working in the transportation and warehousing sector. That, just to give you an idea. So it's all to meet Canada's economic needs and grow our economy.
Okay. Thank you, Minister. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Sodi. Thank you, Minister. We are going to our next round of 5-minute questions, but before we start, I am going to just remind everyone to ask their questions, answers and comments, and please direct it through the chair. Okay, we are beginning the third round with 5 minutes for Mr. Menegakis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Minister and officials, for being here with us today. Minister, I want to expand a little bit on this question of crime and how we treat criminals in this country. Should criminals receive more lenient sentences to protect their immigration status, in your opinion?
I don't believe they should, no.
Okay, well, my colleague referred to Jasbir Singh. That was a case very recent, just Calgary, 2024. And that is a case where the judge considers immigration status when assessing the case. That's one example. But let's go to another one. Ashwin V. Sajavan spied on a woman in a bathroom where he made video recordings. He received a more lenient sentence to stay in the country. In fact, in that case, the judge decided to give him less than 6 months instead of the mandatory 6 to 12 months, just so it would not affect his immigration status. Is it your position or the position of the Liberal government that we should give peepers and rapists a second chance to stay in Canada?
No, absolutely not. Again, as I said, sentencing decisions are not made by a government. They are made by courts. But no, there is a government will not,
Right.
does not support such a thing.
Right, but Minister, these are people that you let in the country, and immigration let in the country. They came, the Liberal government allowed them in the country. These are not Canadians. These are people that are here whose immigration status is being affected, whose judgment status is being affected in the courts, so that the judgment decision has been affected in the courts, so that their immigration status is not affected. Okay, so it really does speak to the weakness we have seen in the background checks that are done before people are let into this country. So let me ask you this. Would you agree that we should prioritize justice for victims and safety for Canadians over immigration needs, over these criminals, peepers, rapists, and so forth?
So safety and priority of Canadians is always the priority.
Well, recently we've heard in this committee, as you very well know, from CBSA, there's 30,000 people they're looking for in the country they can't find. We heard from the president of the union of CBSA employees that they're demoralized. The staff is completely demoralized because they're not given the tools to do the proper background checks. In fact, your one-touch system, which is a first meeting with a person wanting to come into Canada, where they take a biometric of the eye and the fingerprint and so forth. Once they get that first initial meeting, they're given a questionnaire to take home that they have 45 days to complete before they give back. Do you think it is proper to allow people into the country before the entire screening process, ascertaining their criminality or their right to be in Canada, whether they should have a right to be in Canada because of the, if they have criminal records, they shouldn't be here and have the 45 days to complete the questionnaire?
So thanks for, again, I asked about this when I heard about this thingy called one-touch system. I was told that it's not really a one-touch system, but...
No, Minister, I'm sorry. Let me just say that.
Sorry.
Okay? That was clarified here by your officials. Okay, it's not an app. They have the one-touch system is something that is in place by your department. And what it is, it's the first connection with a person coming into the country. They have the one touch for them is the first really discussion they have with the individual. That takes a number of minutes, and they're allowed into the country with a questionnaire to complete the 45 days. Okay? Now, here's the problem we have. We have people that are in the country that shouldn't be here because they're criminals. We have a backlog.
1 minute.
I'm sorry? 1 minute. We have backlogs that are really inundating all of our offices and members of parliament because we're dealing with real people here. The budget calls for a 15% cut in your department. Where are you with that? How many people are you letting go?
So let me go back to this one-touch system. The VP
How many
of
people,
Intelligence and
that question.
Enforcement
How many people are you
of the
letting go?
CBSA said that there's multiple layers of defense, and he clarified that somebody claiming asylum or at a port of entry, 100% of them
I just gave you examples. of
spent
people that are in this
considerable
country.
time with
Please let her
border
answer the
services.
question.
That should not be here.
Mr. Menegakis, please let her answer the question.
I am. I just gave you examples of people that should not be here, Minister, and they're here.
Mr. Menegakis, please let her answer the question.
So I
Minister.
think
Could you please, Madam Chair, I'm communicating with the Minister. I think I want her to understand the question I'm asking.
Point of
I'm
order.
getting a
Point of
different
order.
answer.
Say she's not being able to respond. Mr. Menegakis, point of order, Ms. Zaid.
As chair, it is your responsibility to make sure to have a decorum. So I don't think so. This is a valid thing that he's questioning my honourable colleague is
on that
questioning
point
the
of order-
minister, and you cannot intervene. It is your job to keep
Zaid,
decorum.
Thank you,
On
Ms.
that point of order, is
Mr.
that a
Meneg-
point of order for you?
This is not a point of order. Mr.
Okay.
Menegakis, we're going to your time is up in any
No,
case.
I'm just going to say to you, that's why we introduced Bill C2 and C12,
Minister-
because the
Mr.
system
Diab,
needs
it's
to be
over.
improved.
This-
We
the-
need to have
Minister
better.
Diab.
We need to have better tools, and that's exactly what we are doing.
Minister
So
Diab.
we're hoping that you will work with us to do that.
Minister Diab, just time is up, and but we do have 5 minutes with Ms. Zaid.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks, Minister. Minister, we know that Canada has introduced the Special Mayors Program to support the Sudanese nationals affected by the conflict in Sudan. I represent many members of this community, and they were in Ottawa to meet the parliamentarians last week. They had meetings with many MPs here in Ottawa. They share with me and many other MPs their concerns about delays in processing, the security issues and challenges in family reunification. So could you please outline what steps your department is taking to ensure these measures are implemented quickly, transparently, and equitably so that families can be reunited safely and urgently?
Thank you very much. I know how much you care about that, and I want you to know that Canadians, this department staff, they're horrified by what's happening in Sudan. Canada has stood by since the onset of the crisis in 2023 and will continue to do so. We are prioritizing temporary and permanent residency applications from Sudanese national. But if you'll allow me, I'm just going to tell you what has been done since April 2023 when this started. The Government of Canada responded swiftly to provide assisted departure operations and critical on-the-ground support for Canadian citizens and permanent residents that were there. They brought in 520 of the Canadians and permanent residents and family members at the time. Secondly, IRCC began priority processing applications of those that were already in the temporary resident and the permanent resident inventory. As a result of that, from April that year, 1,730 people were arrived in Canada as well. In February 2024, and those that are here, we've extended their work permits and study permits through until October 2026. In 2024, IRCC launched what you've just described, the dedicated family-based permanent residence humanitarian pathways for those that are residing in Sudan at the time of the conflict and have close family members in here. The number was then increased, expanded in 2025 for 5,000 applications. As you know, that was reached. That intake was reached. As of November 18, 2025, 2,300 people have arrived as part of the family-based PR pathways. Canada also made a commitment to resettle a total of 4,000 Sudanese nationals as government-assisted refugees, as well as 700 under the private sponsorship of refugees. I can tell you, IRCC continues to prioritize the processing of Sudanese applications. That has never stopped and continues to do that.
Yeah, I hear that every day from my constituents about the people, they like lost their loved ones because of the conflict in Sudan, and it is very heartbreaking. Many of my constituents have the money in the account which they cannot access because they had to, in order to qualify for that, they had submitted that money in the account, and still they are waiting for their loved ones to be reunited with them. So
1 minute.
Yeah, and I share your concern. I've had many briefings with staff and people who are experts in the field, and I have directed them, and they have continued to process applications as quickly as possible. What I will say to you is I am told that in 2026 we will see a large number coming that have been already approved.
thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Zaid. Thank you, Minister Diab. Next, we go to Monsieur Brunel-Duceppe pour 2 minutes et demie.
Madame la Ministre,
Minister, according to some people, the response wasn't clear. Perhaps my question wasn't clear, so I'll try and be as clear as possible. Do you find it acceptable that the Prime Minister, Jean Chrétien, ordered the Immigration Minister at the time, Sergio Marchi, to fast-track the processing of citizenship applications in order to enable more people to vote for the No camp in 1995? Was it acceptable that Mr. Marchi executed the PM Chrétien's order? Response. I think I've already answered that question. No, I'm asking you to answer again. Well, I'll take another stab at it. You can ask me the same question over and over if you want, but I'm concentrating on the here and now. Minister, this is hugely important. This isn't a rhetorical question. There's perhaps a third referendum on the horizon in Quebec. I need to know how principled you are. It's important to me to know whether you found that acceptable or not. If you're incapable of answering that question, well, that sows a seed of doubt about your principles and what may be on the horizon vis-à-vis the election process. I'll repeat my question. Was it acceptable that Jean Chrétien ordered Mr. Marchi to fast-track citizenship applications so that more people vote for the No camp? Was that acceptable that Mr. Marchi executed that order? If you can't answer the question, then you're sowing a seed of doubt in people's minds. There's no seed of doubt whatsoever. I am working hard to ensure that our immigration system... Is it acceptable? Was it acceptable? Yes or no?
Point of order. Minister, point of order. Mr. Fragiscatos.
Désolé, Madame la Présidente, mais qu'est-ce que le sujet?
Sorry, Madam Chair, but what's the topic here today? The immigration system? The current immigration system, right? And the levels plan. In a response to the point of order, Madam Chair, in response to the point of order, if I may, yes.
à réponse au point d'ordre, Madame la
In
Ministre.
response to the point of order, if I may, I was talking about the future in my question, sir.
Trouvez ça acceptable?
No.
Yay or no, is it acceptable what occurred?
So I'm just making...
I said it's not a point of order.
Okay.
So, and I'm
They are
going back to
asking
the
for
time.
unprecedented powers to extend visas, so it's kind of
It's not a
material.
point of order. It's not a point of order. Your time starts now, Mr. Brunel-Duceppe.
Dernière fois, trouvez-vous ça acceptable?
Going
Oui ou non?
once, going twice. Is it acceptable? Was it acceptable? This will give us some insight into what's going to occur in the future. Response. I undertake to work to ensure that we have a sustainable immigration system that's based on integrity for Canada, for Quebec, for all provinces. You've just sowed a seed of doubt, Minister, and when there's the next election, referendum, if we are lucky enough to have one, you've sowed the seed of doubt because you're incapable of asking a question of principle.
Then to finish this round, we are going to go to Mr. Connors for 5 minutes.
Thank you. It's certainly nice to be able to join the committee today and get to ask some questions about immigration and not about people and not about or pass comments on people's capabilities.
Oh,
and this.
Mr. Connors, I'm sorry, I'm going to stop you for a second. I missed Mr. Davies, and I don't know how I did that, so I apologize in advance, Mr. Davies. And I apologize to you, Mr. Connors. So I'm going to begin 5 minutes with Mr. Davies, and then we'll proceed to Mr. Connors. I apologize. Please, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Minister, you rejected all of the amendments that this committee duly approved in the legislation. You rejected reasonable amendments related to citizenship tests, background checks, language requirements, and all related to chain migration. Why did you reject these amendments, and why do you think it's unreasonable for new Canadians in a chain migration model to have to speak one of our 2 official languages, understand our history, and prove they're not criminals?
So thanks for that question. If you still have any doubt, I appreciate you giving the opportunity again. I didn't reject anything. These things were discussed in committee. Committee made decisions. It went to the House of Commons. It went to Senate. The Speaker made some rulings. It proceeded. I am one person, in the overall scheme of
Minister,
things.
you lead the charge when it comes to legislation like this. If you had recognized the importance and the relevance of the amendments that we put forward, you would have championed them in the House and not have them wholly rejected by the House of Commons. You lead this portfolio, and these were important amendments that this committee accepted. And I find your answer confusing because it has nothing to do with the Senate. It had everything to do with what recommendation you brought to Cabinet.
Again, if you're talking about the Lost Canadian legislation, is that what you're talking about?
Well, yes, but what in this it's effectively a chain migration model, and the people that are eligible through that model could be criminals that have served time, been convicted, and released, but because of a loose connection to Canada, would automatically have an access to Canada without a background check, without a language requirement, without a knowledge of Canadian history. Why would those reasonable recommendations be rejected?
So again, I believe the committee had a chance to hear different perspectives on that. There were things made.
We did,
went to
and
the
we
House of
recommended
Commons,
changes,
it
and they
went
were
to Senate,
accepted.
and that has now been dealt with until,
So you're okay with allowing people that may have been served time, criminal charges, criminal convictions in other countries with a loose connection to Canada could ultimately obtain Canadian citizenship?
Look, we have a robust system that would deal with that. Those that
But
have
the
dealt that with.
legislation doesn't require the robustness to take place. They are automatically entitled to Canadian
Well,
citizenship.
we were talking about people that were born after 2009 or whatever the date
but
was.
we're
that
also
were
talking about
going to
subsequent
be
generations.
infants and children.
We're also talking about subsequent generations in perpetuity, actually.
Well, from here on in, it'll be newborns largely.
So newborns and their newborns, somebody goes to jail.
No, if they have a tie to Canada. But again, we dealt with all of this before. I think today we're here to talk about the estimates, and I actually have the CFO, and a lot of representatives here to answer valid
Okay, so
questions on that.
On that, let me move on to some. IRCC is requesting $17.1 million more for grants and contributions for the Interim Housing Assistance Program. This funding goes to provincial and municipal governments to address extraordinary interim housing pressures. Can somebody define for me what extraordinary means? And is this in any way similar to the housing program that asylum claimants use to commandeer hotels in key tourist zones in my area of Niagara?
Okay, so we'll find you that information, but I will tell you that I believe I said that last time. As of there are no people in hotels anymore that are housed by the government of Canada. That has ended. We had a large number of asylum claims the last couple of years. Our asylum numbers are now down by a third.
I'm sorry, I have limited time, Minister. I'm just looking for clarity because this money is going to provincial and municipal governments. What oversight do you have after and what conditions and terms are these municipalities bound by to obtain this money, and where's the money going?
So there's agreements, and they are obligated to provide stats and figures based on the agreements.
For what?
for what they're, the funding is used for and the number of people.
Well, that's what I'm trying to get to the bottom of. What is the funding is for housing assistance, but can you define that, and what is extraordinary?
So it was for interim housing measures for the fact that we had a large number of asylums. As I said to you, the good news for 2025, that has gone down by a third.
So your use of interim
Mr.
housing,
Davies.
it really is hotels
Thank you,
in a different.
Minister.
Not
Thank you,
hotels,
Mr.
these are
Davies.
center. No, not hotels.
Thank you, Mr. Davies. Thank you, Minister. That's time's up. And then the final person for this round is back to you, Mr. Connors, for 5 minutes.
All right, I'm good this time? Thank you. Thank you very much. As I was saying, it's nice to be here today and to be able to discuss some immigration issues, the personal tax and everything. I'm on 2 other committees and I don't see those things. And a wise person once told me that you debate the issues and the policy and you don't debate the individual. And I think that would be wise for some people around the table to be able to listen to. But besides that, Minister, in my area, Newfoundland and Labrador, and in many other rural areas around the country, there's been a lot of talk and discussion regarding the temporary foreign workers program. We know that it plays an important role in certain sectors of our economy and in rural remote areas, such as the fishing industry, agricultural industry, and many other sectors. And I know that we discussed there's 3 million temporary residents. In my area and in many parts of my riding, many parts of Newfoundland and Labrador, fish plants, businesses would not be able to operate without temporary foreign workers. They would be shut down. What can you tell us about the number of new workers coming in through this program, and what role do you see this program as part of the broader immigration plan?
Thank you very much, and welcome today. I know you're subbing in, but welcome. I have heard extensively from actually members of Parliament, and not all from the governing party, from others as well. But I've also heard from many stakeholders, whether it's the people that work in these industry, whether it's the businesses, whether it's the chambers of commerce. But I've also heard extensively from rural communities, really, really small communities in Canada, in many, many different parts of this country, who recognize that there is a role for these temporary workers. And the program itself is designed to address these short-term labor and skills shortages where no Canadians are available to fill those jobs. So they are here to help with our economic benefits. Again, our role would be to protect those workers, but also to ensure that our communities, particularly communities like yours, where there really is not Canadian-born people or Canadians available to fill a lot of these sectors. So we recognize that. We work with ESDC, the Employment and Social Development Canada, who are responsible to introduce measures to manage the volumes and to help better align with those industries, with those communities. Where IRCC would sort of fit in is that we do the processing. There are caps under the temporary foreign worker program, but there is also exemptions for the food processing workers, including fish processors. And that has been there for a long time. I come from Nova Scotia, and I know, because when I was minister provincially, I went across the province a number of times, and I've spoke to the fish processors and the plants that we have in different parts of Nova Scotia, and they desperately are in need of those workers. They rely on them. The communities rely on them. Canadians rely on them. And this government and myself as minister understand that. And that is why I continue to work with the provinces, with the territories, with the municipalities, with many stakeholders to ensure that we are there to support the communities, and, as well, not just the larger cities, but the small communities. I understand very well what it means to work together, to collaborate, to ensure that we have success for our Canadian population, for our communities, and for the people that are coming here, to ensure that they are also taken care of. And I'll tell you one other thing I learned. For most of them, whether it's fish or agriculture, a lot of these businesses build homes for them. They house them. They take care of them like their own. And in the case where something goes wrong, that is where the ESDC has, program and officers that ensure that that is done.
Thank you, Minister, and thank you, Mr. Connors. We've now completed 3 rounds, and so now we will begin our 4th round, and we begin with Ms. Rembel-Gardner. 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. So you're asking Parliament to give your department about $600 million extra dollars for the interim federal health program, and that is the program by which you give a lot of supplemental benefits like vision care and mental health supports to people even who have failed asylum claims. Do you think that it's fair that, like, let's say a Canadian senior who has paid taxes all their lives get less types of supplementary benefits than asylum seeker who has a failed claim, like somebody who's a bogus asylum claimant? Do you think, like, why should I give you $600 million for bogus asylum claimants when Canadian seniors can't get basic health care? How does that make any sense to you?
So thanks for that. Couple of things. One, if you took a look at the budget, we have introduced a copay to handle some of that.
How much do you expect people to pay?
But as well, the dollar amount that you referred to stems from the fact that it is an interim federal health program where the volumes were up from years ago.
Yes, because you #Welcome to Canada 300, 500, 600,000 people who have bogus asylum claims. I'm aware that the numbers are up, and that's why you're asking us for. Right. I just asked you, is it fair? Like, you're asking taxpayers, us, to send you $600 million to pay for things like orthotics and vision care for people who have bogus asylum claimants and are still in the country. So is that fair? Why would I do that? That seems dumb to me.
So listen, I realize it's not something you would do, but I can tell you these money goes for people that are here because of human trafficking, goes for women that are here because of domestic violence.
Great, let's give it to those people. Why are you giving them to bogus people with failed asylum claims?
The duration of which these are temporary, so that they receive interim health
measures. So if somebody has a failed asylum claim, they can still receive federal benefits. Why? That's dumb.
Again, we are introducing measures to ensure that we limit and curb those.
But
and
why
with
don't
measures
you
that
just
you
cut
are
it off?
obstructing, quite frankly.
Well, yes, I'm accepting it. I think it's completely insane that you are giving better health benefits to people with bogus asylum claims than Canadian seniors. So I'm happy to obstruct that. Why wouldn't you obstruct that? Why wouldn't you say, this is banana crackers?
No, you're obstructing the fact that we're trying to ensure that does not get done.
No, you actually are just asking. So if you look in the document you have in front of you, you've asked me to give you more than $500 million for health benefits for people who have no legal reason to be in the country that you can't deport. So make the business case. Pitch me. It's Shark Tank. Let's do it.
These are costs to cover interim health measures, emergency measures for people that are coming from war-torn countries.
But it's also for bogus asylum claimants.
And it's also for treating people with diseases. I think,
No. I want to be clear here. We've tried to pass measures to restrict, like if somebody has a failed asylum claim, bogus, that they should be deported rather than get benefits.
And that's exactly what we're doing. We're introducing measures to ensure that that speeds up, and that exactly
Yeah, but you're still giving them benefits, so why would they leave? And you're allowing them to endlessly appeal. Why would you, this is crazy.
So the measures that we're putting in would curb all of that.
Yeah. Okay. Why are you still giving TFW work permits to fast food restaurants in major urban centers? That's crazy.
Again, as I
1 minute.
explained before, the ESDC goes through and decides where we have labor gaps. People who are getting these, businesses who are getting these have to go through an LMIA assessment.
Did you tell Patty, I'm a little uncomfortable issuing these permits? We have a 20% youth job crisis. I am not going to give Tim Hortons in urban centers work permits. We should change the program. Have you said that to your colleague?
Any employer that receives these goes through a strenuous process where they have to show they cannot find, as well, it's 1% of our target.
But there's a lot of fraud in that, and I have a hard time believing that a fast food restaurant in downtown Toronto needs a TFW for basic work. So have you made any effort to close the program off? Like if you said, hey, maybe we should bet on Canadian kids and scrap the program?
We're always betting on Canadian kids. That's
don't
why
think
we
you
have
are.
what we have. As in terms of facts, there's a 70% decrease
That
in
is
the
time.
temporary foreign
Thank you,
worker
Ms. Rempel
permits
Gardner.
in
Thank you.
low-wage industries.
Thank you, Minister Diab. Colleagues, I'm going to ask again, please direct your questions and comments through the chair. Please direct your comments and questions through the chair. Thank you. Next, we have 5 minutes for Ms. Zaid.
Thank you, Chair, and through you, Chair, I would like to ask the Minister that I would like to talk about the caregiver programs, and in particular for the out-of-status caregivers. These are the people who came to Canada legally to care for our families, to take care of our loved ones. They are contributing to our economy and to our country, and they are paying their taxes. Through no fault of their own, because of the employer issues or the program changes, they have fallen out of status. The caregiver community has called for an amnesty for these people, similar to how the last government provided amnesty to out-of-status construction workers. Will you commit to working with the community to design such a program?
So thank you for that question. I have met and I have heard and I have seen in my lifetime a lot of people that are in the caregiving industry, and their services, we appreciate their services as individuals that live in our communities, but also as government. They are critical to our economy, but also to the livelihood of many of the Canadian citizens. We will continue to work with them to see where we're at and what we can do with, on that level. I can't promise you anything today because it is, but I will promise to take that back and take a look and see where we are in that system. I do know we have a levels plan. We will continue to do that. There's also levels, and we have within those levels pull different people from different categories.
Last few years, starting from 2019, we have launched different caregiver programs, and these have been temporary. So what would you say in regards to having a permanent caregiver program so that the people who are coming to take care of our loved ones, like having a good caregiver assures many mothers to go out and work. Once we know that someone is taking care of our elderly, our parents and grandparents, we can go out and work without thinking of them. So I think there needs to be a stability for them. So what would you say on a permanent program for the caregivers?
So the department has, in 2025, a pilot, which you probably are very well aware of, called the Home Care Worker Pilot. It is in the first year of 2025, so we'll see how that goes, and the department will assess that. What I can tell you is, over the past decade, over 114,800, so 114,800 home care workers and family members were admitted as permanent residents through the caregiver programs that you've indicated. There's been a number of them over the years.
Thank you. How much time I have?
And a half.
Minister, I'd also like to turn to the Hong Kong Pathway Program. I have many constituents who are members of the Hong Kong community who are concerned about the delays in processing for their permanent residency applications. They have come to Canada through this important program, and they want to build their lives here, contribute to our economy, and put down roots. But the lengthy delays have them feeling unsettled, and some are considering moving to other countries, such as the United Kingdom. So could you please share what your department is doing to address these delays in the Hong Kong Pathway Program?
So, Ms. Zahid, I want to thank you this afternoon because you are bringing to light many, many issues that Canadians are concerned about and people that are here in this country are concerned about. And the fact is, there are many. And Hong Kong is one of them. Again, Canada continues to stand by the people of Hong Kong, and we do support the human rights and freedoms. So there's a number of measures that Canada had implemented, including 2 pathways that were introduced in 2021 for Hong Kong residents in Canada temporarily who obtained recent post-secondary education or work experience. So those who have applied under these pathways can apply for an open work permit while they wait for their permanent resident application to be processed. We have 2 permanent residence pathways for Hong Kong residents.
Thank you, Minister. I'm sorry to cut you off, but that's time. And thank you, Ms. Zaid. Next, we go to Monsieur Brunel-Ducet pour 2 minutes et demie.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. À travers vous,
Madam Chair, through you, Madam Chair. Minister, we agree that refugee claimants fall exclusively under federal jurisdiction. We agree? Yes? Yes. Why are you equivocating? Well, I have an expert here with me. Well, you don't need to be an expert. Refugee claimants, it's about international agreements. No, you're right, sir. Honestly, if you can't clearly respond to that kind of question, Minister, we're talking about Citizenship 101, the very basics. This refugee claimants are solely federal area of jurisdiction, and yet it's the provinces that are paying the cost in terms of infrastructure and services, education, healthcare. Provinces, in particular Quebec, are calling for the costs to be refunded, and that's normal and expected. The time frame for processing claims is so lengthy, and in the meantime, the provinces and territories have to cough up the money. Now, are you telling us that the Quebec government is asking for too much? Are you saying that the Quebec government is asking more money than what it actually costs for the intake in Quebec of these refugee claimants? Response. Well, I can provide you with details of the funding that the federal government has given Quebec for refugee claimants. Quebec received $1.1 billion due to the increased pressure of refugee claimants. When was that until that funding? 31st of October 2025, says the Minister. But what was the actual time frame for that funding envelope? Well, I can tell you I've handed out $10 billion over 10 years, but, so since 2017. And just this year, in 2024, well, Quebec, it costs millions of dollars for the education system, just for the Ministry of Education. And in 2024 or 2025, over $450 million just for the education system. And I'm not even talking about social welfare and housing. And listen, when the Quebec government is asking you to be refunded, it's not because they're trying to rip you off, it's because they need the money to pay for the services that they're offering.
Next, we have Mr. Menegakis for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you, Minister, let me get back to what I started asking at the end of our previous exchange and didn't have a chance to get an answer from you. Minister, where are you planning to get the 15% cuts? We're 8 months into this budget already having been spent. Where are you cutting? How many people are you letting go?
The people.
There's a silence there, and my 5 minutes are rapidly disappearing.
So in early 2025, IRCC already recalibrated a large number of its staffing back in February 2025. And the reason it did that at the time was because the levels plan was supposed to be 500 for permanent residency, and it went down to 395. So there was 3,300 positions that were already taken out. So now the number is
Well, you're asking us for money today, Minister, with all due respect. The budget was presented to us just on November 4th, and that budget, the very first line on page 311, which deals with citizenship and immigration, says that you are working towards the 15%. Here's really what I'm trying to get at. It's like you're faced with having to cut 15%, but we're not seeing services being afforded to people that are expecting some service. Mrs. Zahid mentioned the Hong Kong Pathway Program. Last Saturday, I met at the Hong Kong Community Center with hundreds of people specifically on the Hong Kong Pathway subject, people that were signed an agreement in effect with the federal government saying if they did this, they would have a pathway to permanent residency. They're looking at delays, Minister, of up to 10 years. So where are you cutting? Are we going to see services cut as well? These backlogs are getting further and further and further. So let me ask you this. What was the historic high of non-permanent residents as a percentage of the overall population? Do you know?
So let me answer your question.
My question, Minister,
there's a number of factors when we consider our budget. There will be no cuts to servicing frontline.
I understand. I'd like to know if you know if you can share with us what the historic high of non-permanent residents in the country is as a percentage of population.
7.6%.
Yes. Well, there was actually 7.4% as of Stats Canada's report on October the 1st, 2024. Do you know what it was as of just this past summer?
The number that we have here for the third quarter of 2025, 7.26.
Okay. Now, it was just 2.5%, Minister, for 4 years ago.
Sorry?
It was just, in 2022, it was 2.5%. Today, you're looking at 7.1%.
So you're using different stats.
There's no, I'm talking like this is the huge number of people that your government has led into the country. There's no amount of spin that will hide the volume of people that were led here. We warned the Liberals, for example, to abolish the TFW program, which you have chosen not to do so. It appears to Canadians that the IRCC, your department, has become the Human Resources Department for Tim Hortons. We have kids, we have children in Canada, kids, okay, who can't find jobs. Youth unemployment in Canada, 18, 19, 20, 21-year-olds in the Greater Toronto Area is hovering around 20%. And they're trying to find jobs, and you have temporary foreign workers and international students who really should not be working and taking their jobs, their jobs.
From January to September 2025, we have 150,220 fewer students that have arrived, and 158,660 fewer workers that have arrived than last year. So the numbers is going down. Asylum numbers are going down. I think that's probably what hurts, is the fact that we are controlling our immigration numbers. We are controlling the non-permanent residents, but we are still working with employers, with municipalities, with provinces.
Have you seen your backlogs going down? Minister, I want to tell you something.
So
if you were in that room last Saturday...
Hold on, order.
Some of it is not a question of backlog. It's a question of unable to being...
Mr. Menegakis, please. Minister, please. Please do not talk over each other. Our translators, our interpreters are not able to actually translate. Please. We have 15 seconds left, Mr. Menegakis. Do you have a quick comment, or would you like the minister to finish?
Minister, if you were in that room last Saturday with hundreds of people, okay, and I can tell you that 98% of them are frustrated because they did everything right and they're not getting service at the other end. They're not seeing a pathway to go on with their lives here in Canada.
Thank you,
You're still
Menegakis.
letting in a
Thank
lot
you,
more
Mr.
people.
Menegakis. Thank you, Minister Diab. And now we're going to go for 5 minutes to Ms. Sodi.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And through you, Madam Chair, I'd like to ask the Minister about the non-permanent resident population. We know that the Department, the Minister, has set a goal for the non-permanent resident population to be less than 5% by 2027. Minister, are you able to update the committee on what progress IRCC has made so far in that goal and how the levels plan works towards further lowering that number over the next few years?
Yes, thank you very much for that question. In fact, we've been working extremely hard since we came in June 2020, since the election, to work on our levels planning. So to advance the commitment, the overall target for the new temporary residents has been reduced from 673,650 to 385,000 in 2026, 370,000 in 2027, and 2028. So our targets in 2026 for the workers would be 170,000 in the International Mobility Program and 60,000 in the Temporary Foreign Worker Program that colleagues across the way keep talking about. So it's 60,000 people will be coming from the Temporary Foreign Worker Program, which is in 2026. We've also decreased student arrivals from 305,000 to 155,000 in 2026 and 150,000 in the next 2-year period across for that 3-year. So the balance between workers and students reflects the need to support the labor market while attracting top talent. As I said, I spoke before about the PhD graduate levels that we need from across the world to come to Canada to help build our economy. And with the level plan that we have, again, our asylum numbers are gone down a third in 2025. Student population has gone down. Temporary worker population has gone down. We are working on attracting global talent. We are working to ensure that on our foreign credentialing, so that people in healthcare and other industries can work here that are already here in Canada. We are also importantly working on attracting Francophone immigrants and Francophone immigration. It's funny, I never hear that question at all from the opposition, but it is a key pillar for this government and for myself in particular, because it's one I've been working on for over 10 years in the immigration sphere when we talk about attracting people that can speak French, to ensure that we keep the French language going and stronger in Canada, because I am very proud for Canada's dualistic two-language. And so I will give it back to you. I'm sure you have another question.
Of course. Thank you. You recently announced funding to support the attraction and settlement of Francophone immigrants outside of Quebec. Can you speak to these funding agreements and explain what further what impact IRCC is planning for?
Yeah, thank you for that. Actually, this is something that Canada or this government has been working on for a number of years. When I first entered the political world, I can tell you Canada was having difficulties attracting 2% of the population in Francophone. I, in 2016, attended meetings as the Minister of Immigration provincially, but on behalf of the Francophonie Minister at the time, provincially, and we were talking about how do we get out of that and come to 4%. I'm very proud to say that we've surpassed the numbers of 6 last year. This year we will meet our target. We've got targets of 9% in 2026. We have the action plan for official languages, historic dollar amounts on that. I'm very proud of the work that parliamentarians did to get that. overboard. On the other side, we're also leveraging the expertise of Center for Innovation and Francophone Immigration. That is something I made an announcement on last week. It was not, that had been begun in 2025. So we want to ensure that we always have a Francophone lens so that we can integrate
Thank you so
into
much,
our
Minister.
economic programs.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you, Ms. Sodi. So we just have a limited amount left, and so I'm going to split the limited time we have left with for 3 minutes with Mr. Davies and 3 minutes for Mr. Connors. Mr. Davies for 3 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just as a housekeeping question or request on behalf of my colleague, Mr. Redekop, I wonder if the Minister, if she might provide us with a report on the status of all pending Yazidi PSR claims, cases in Canada, if that's possible. We're just looking for a report. I don't need a verbal answer now, but just looking for some additional information. Is that fair enough?
I'll look into that. I don't know if it's possible, but I will look.
Appreciate it. I wonder, Madam Chair, the IRCC is seeking additional funds. It's not a great deal of additional funds for the resettlement assistance program, but it is in addition to the budget. Support for eligible refugees, including a one-time startup payment and monthly income support. How much is the one-time payment? And is that excluded from any monthly amount thereafter?
So we can return to you with the actual dollar figure, but the startup payment for resettled refugees, it's I believe it's usually like first and last month's rent advance, things like that. Because resettled refugees do come with 12 months of income support for the first year after which they're in Canada to help them start their life.
So in exceptional circumstances, that can be extended to 24 months. What would exceptional mean?
Those would be refugees with high settlement needs that need additional support.
So the average Canadian on full pension and CPP gets about $1,433 a month. Would refugees in these categories get a greater value than what the average Canadian gets after paying into CPP their entire lives?
The resettlement assistance program income support that's provided is pegged to the social assistance levels in the province or territory in question.
So with the additional one-time payments, it actually exceeds what the average Canadian would get in CPP.
I'm not in a position. I'd have to look at the numbers.
Could you find that out for me and get back to me, please? I'd appreciate it. I know I don't have much time left, Madam Chair, but I have 30 seconds. Minister, we did talk about this, so I just want to return. Has your department done any analysis of the impact, and is there any alternative business models or business plans that that deal with sudden influxes of refugees so we don't get another Niagara Falls?
So refugees we know the refugees that we bring the refugees. Canada brings them, either through government-assisted or privately. So we know the numbers. We can't have an influx because those numbers are known ahead of time.
Okay, so is there...
Thank you, Mr. Davies. Thank you, Minister. Our final 3 minutes goes to Mr. Connors. Your 3 minutes starts now.
Thank you. Minister, I wanted to go back to the limited and temporary health care questions that we had, because it was sort of insinuated here that most of the budget goes to bogus immigrants that don't receive status or receive permanent residency, I suppose. And you probably don't have this number, but would the department be able to provide to the committee a breakdown of how much goes to the other types of individuals that you mentioned that come into and the people who didn't receive residency?
Ms. Rumpel-Garner, please.
Because I'm assuming that a lot of it doesn't go into the bogus.
Ms. Rumpel-Garner, please, order. Mr. Connors.
So let me talk just a little bit on the interim federal health program. The reason why it's been high, obviously, is because the asylum claim volumes have been high. The good news in 2025, and I will keep saying that, is they are 33% lower than over the same time period last year. So the demand for is now decreasing. So that is good news. What we've announced in Budget 2025 is that IRCC will introduce modest co-payments for supplemental health products and services, including prescription medication and dental care, for beneficiaries covered under that program. And so we are awaiting that to be passed in order to implement that, which would be in line of what other people are getting, but also in 2024, 2025, so fiscal year that 6% of asylum claimants who used interim federal health programs were what we called had their claims failed. So that's the percentage, 6%.
Finish off. How much time? 45 seconds. Okay, 45 seconds. So you had an internal audit.
And some of them, sorry, the claim may not have been failed. They may have abandoned it themselves.
So you had an internal audit in 2024. And
2024, 2025.
Yeah. Has the government made any changes to the program in response to that internal audit?
That's why we've introduced the co-payment in the budget.
So I'm going to finish off with it was mentioned to the Shark Tank earlier in the thing, and I don't think any host on the Shark Tank treat people with the disrespect that you were treated with here today, and I just want to finish off with that.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Mr. Connors. And that concludes our testimony for today. I want to thank you, Minister Diab, for being here with us. I want to thank all your entire team for being with us today and for answering the questions. To the committee, I do have a question. Does the committee wish to vote on the supplementary estimates B 2025-2026 now? I'll take that as a yet. Yeah, so there are 2 votes in supplementary estimates B, 2025-2026. All votes are under the Department of Citizenship and Immigration. Shall vote 1B carry?
On division.
Okay. Shall vote 10B carry?
On division.
Okay. So shall I report the votes from the supplementary estimates B 2025-2026 to the House?
Yes.
Okay. With that, that's the end of our agenda. I now adjourn this meeting.